For decades, the so-called Western rules-based world order has held itself up as the gold standard for the rest of the globe. It's a phrase that echoes through international summits, press conferences, and op-eds, a promise of democracy, justice, and human rights for all. But in the shadow of the Iran-Israel face-off, a new question emerges when the smoke finally clears. Who pays the deepest price? The answer, it seems, is not Iran, not Israel. It's the very credibility of the Western-led system itself. Let's set the scene. The world has just watched an escalating confrontation between Israel and Iran, a spectacle that gripped headlines, sparked analysis, and prompted feverish activity in Western capitals. The narrative from the West is one of alarm of sacred alliances and existential threats. Yet, to millions watching from afar, another story unfolds beneath the surface. In Gaza, more than 55,000 people have perished, an unimaginable toll that hardly makes it past the second paragraph in many Western news outlets. The West, which for generations has exhorted the world on the sanctity of human life, democracy, and the inviolability of international law, offers little more than platitudes. Politicians who once pounded tables for human rights now seem to limit their outrage to carefully selected victims. Their outrage for the loss of Israeli life is sharp and immediate. Their response choreographed and overwhelming, while their response to the destruction of Gaza is muted, half-hearted, and frequently tangled in the language of justification. The hypocrisy is palpable and, perhaps for the first time, impossible to deny. Images flash across social media. Devastation in Gaza, Western leaders nodding solemnly but doing little. A handful of casualties in Israel. And the entire machinery of diplomacy, military support, and coordinated outrage leaps into action. The world sees. The world is not blind. This is not about the value of life in one nation versus another. Every loss is a tragedy. But the contrast in reactions exposes the double standard at the heart of the rules-based order. Over decades, this same system defined democracy, debated human rights, and projected soft power, insisting that its values were universal. Yet, when tested, the application is anything but universal. It is selective, strategic, and increasingly, it appears self-serving. So, when the dust settles after the latest Iran-Israel confrontation, what is left? Iran, despite sanctions and threats, remains defiant. Israel, battered and bloodied, continues with its policies, fortified by military aid and unequivocal support. But for the Western-led order, there is an erosion less visible but far more consequential. Trust, once the linchpin of Western influence, is evaporating in the heat of these contradictions. Around the world, the message is received and internalized. In the global South, leaders and populations who once listened to Western lectures on democracy and human rights now look elsewhere for inspiration and partnership. The Western claim is seen as hollow, the narrative exposed as rhetoric rather than reality. Countries that might have aspired to join the Western club are reconsidering. Some look to China with its own model of order, or to resurgent blocs like BRICS, seeking a new way forward in an increasingly multipolar world. Media coverage plays its part, too. Carefully curated language, selective outrage, an endless stream of punditry all try to restore some sense of Western authority. But every contradiction is archived online, dissected in real time, and discussed far beyond the news cycle. A generation raised on instant global communication will not be so easily swayed by official statements and tightly managed press briefings. Even within the West, the fissures are visible. Young people, activists, and even political insiders question the old dogmas. If international law is truly universal, why are there exceptions? If democracy means self-determination and justice, why do some get it and others do not? Under the surface, faith in the rules-based order is crumbling, not because of external enemies, but because of an internal rot of ideals betrayed by practice. When future historians write about the era of the Iran-Israel tensions, they may see this as a turning point, not because of bombs and drones, but because the moral authority of the West, the real foundation of its global dominance, was laid bare. And so the biggest loser emerges not on the battlefields of the Middle East, but in the court of global public opinion. The West's carefully cultivated image is tarnished. Trust is lost not in a day, but in the slow, grinding repetition of hypocrisy and selective outrage. The rules-based world order may remain as a phrase in speeches, but its weight, its moral significance, has shifted. The world is watching. The world is learning. And when the dust settles, a lasting question lingers. What replaces the order that has lost the world's trust?